A new law in the city of Philadelphia has the city fixing urgent property repairs for absentee landlords and then billing those landlords later and putting a lien on their property until they pay. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, crazy story coming out of Philadelphia. Now, I've covered other stories in Philadelphia, so it shouldn't surprise you that they are very anti-landlord in the city. And, this is another crazy example of government overreach, okay? So I don't like reading stories like this. I don't like seeing stories like this, but hey, this could be coming to a city near you. And it wouldn't surprise me if I saw this in other places. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you want to see on this channel, okay? I'm going to work to keep bringing you articles about the eviction moratorium, crazy new landlord laws, and anything else that might be of interest to landlords. So, this article comes from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and it says, City Council wants Philly to pay for urgent property repairs and bill the owners. So basically what they're trying to do up in Philadelphia is they passed this law that says that, okay, if there's an urgent property repair and the landlord isn't willing to fix it quickly enough, I guess, then the city itself will come in, do the repair, and then bill the landlord for the cost. And if they don't pay, they put a lien on the property. So this raises a ton of red flags. First of all, who's the one who's making the judge on, all right, who is the judge on how fast the repairs are getting done? Who is the one who's putting the liens on these properties? How do you get the liens removed? I mean, it seems like this isn't legal and this isn't right, okay? So let's say, for example, the city deems that you need to replace the furnace on your property. Furnace is still working, and you've said, hey, I'm not going to replace it because the furnace is still working. It's older, but it's still functional. It still works fine. The tenants still have heat. Well, the city decides, no, that isn't good enough. Comes in, does the repair. They go find the most expensive contractor that they can possibly find, and cost double or triple what a normal contractor would cost to do the furnace. Then they bill you for that. If you don't pay, they put a lien on your property. I mean, come on here. What is going on? This is absolutely ridiculous, and it is quite a bit of government overreach. Now, let's see what the article says, because I'm really curious about the details of this, okay? Philadelphia is one step closer to repairing safety hazards in properties owned by absentee landlords and in vacant homes and billing the owners. City Council on Thursday passed a bill that defines certain property maintenance code violations as public nuisances and allows the Department of Licenses and Inspections to arrange for repairs to try to minimize negative impacts on residents and near neighbors. The bill applies to certain multifamily buildings and vacant single-family buildings and includes repairs for violations related to heating and plumbing systems. Faulty private sewage pipes, for example, can damage surrounding properties, and malfunctioning heating systems in a multifamily building can leave residents cold in their homes. The legislation allows L&I to add other significant property code violations to the repair list. Well, one of my biggest gripes with this is first of all, are we actually notifying these landlords that, hey, there's issues in their properties? A lot of the times, the tenants do not communicate with the landlords. They'll go straight to the inspector, or they won't just let the landlord know, hey, I have a problem. I got a leak here in my plumbing. Hey, I've got no heat right now. Instead, they'll just be sitting in the place and be like, hey, this is a slumlord. They won't fix it. Like the landlord is psychic or something. We're not psychics. We don't know if there's a problem unless you notify us that there's a problem. And even if there is a problem, sometimes it is beyond our control getting things fixed. I know for a fact that sometimes I can't get contractors out immediately to fix a problem. So I'm just sitting there waiting until the contractor is finally able to get out there and do the repairs. and that means that you're just going to not have heat, or I'm going to have to get space heaters or something for you temporarily until I actually am able to get it fixed. Plus, I like to do multiple bids because I don't just go to the very first contractor and, hey, the price is a little bit high, but I'll go ahead and pay it. No, I usually get 2 or 3 bids on every job I do, especially for more expensive work. So imagine a large apartment building in a place like Philadelphia that has a boiler that can cost, tens of thousands of dollars to repair. You're not just going to hire the very first contractor that comes up and says they can do it. No, you might get a couple of different repairs. And then if the guy's busy, it might be a week before they're able to come out and actually get the thing replaced. I mean, it sucks, but that's the nature of the game. Right now, there is a shortage of labor, and that means that it takes longer to get things done. But does the city of Philadelphia, are they even taking these factors into consideration? Okay, I mean, have they talked to the landlords about this issue? No, of course not. Instead, they're passing more feel-good stuff. And I just covered in a video the other day about how the more regulations that they pass, the less affordable housing becomes, the more difficult it becomes for people to find housing, and the less landlords who want to be in the business. So, these rules and regulations actually, they end up making things worse because you're over regulating, and the only people who can afford to do business are the ones who are charging the highest amounts of rents. So anyway, let's continue. The legislation, passed by a 16-0 vote, gives a property owner 1 month to repair or begin to repair problems. If the owner does not act, the department would bill the owner for repairs. If 30 days passes without a payment, the city would place a lien on the property so that when it is sold, the city recoups the investment. I get calls on a day-to-day basis of bad actors and the tenants having to figure out a way how to live in humane conditions when individuals aren't being responsible, Councilmember Kenyatta Johnson said Thursday, voicing his support for the bill. Well, that might be the case, okay? There might be a few bad actors, okay? But the problem is the bad actors aren't going to change their ways just because you passed a law here and there. What it really means, though, is that the good actors, the good landlords who take care of their properties and do the best job as possible, they're going to get caught up in this net. And they're going to end up with liens on their properties and getting billed excessive amounts for repairs that weren't necessary. That's always the way it works, okay? The good landlords get caught up with the very, very few bad landlords. So you pass these laws trying to, protect tenants from 1 or 2% of bad landlords, and then what ends up happening is the other 99% of good landlords, they get screwed. That's why I don't like these laws. That's why I'm so opposed to so many of these things that these cities are trying to pass. Sarah Adamo, legislative affairs manager for Illinois, said at a June council hearing that Mayor Jim Kenney's administration supported the intent of the bill, but that concerns about capacity to implement the program and liability for repairs prevented the administration from endorsing the plan. In the next few weeks, council members plan to convene a working group with the administration to figure out funding and implementation and address Illinois' concerns. If Kenney signs the bill, it would take effect 1 year later. Now, that's a good point. Now, that's something I didn't really think of, right? So the mayor actually thought of a couple of things that I wouldn't have thought of. And one is the capacity to implement the program, okay? So it would be quite complicated, and it would probably cost the city quite a bit of money. So do they actually have funds to do these repairs that they're supposedly going to pay for? I doubt it, okay? They would have to do quite a bit to raise the money to do these sort of repairs, okay? So the second thing that he brought up was liability for repairs. So, speaking again on a furnace, imagine the city pays to have a furnace or a boiler installed in a apartment building, okay? And the person they paid to install it, well, they go in there and they actually do damage to the building. Or they install it incorrectly and it causes a fire or something like that. Well, guess what? Is the city then liable? Maybe. And Would a landlord have a right to sue? Maybe. So would the city even want to implement a law like this? That's a good question. And I'm glad that they actually brought that up here in this article. New York City, Washington, and Los Angeles are among the cities that have similar programs, according to Council Member Curtis Jones Jr., who introduced the bill. Because they understand with the homeless problem that we all face, it is better ultimately to let people live in their homes than to provide temporary alternative housing, he said in a June council hearing. If we're going to save affordable housing in this town, this is a clear tool to do that. Jones told the story of a woman renting a home who had waste in her basement and a landlord who didn't fix the pipe. He said L&I told the woman her home was uninhabitable and she had to leave. Jones said he would have liked to see the city fix the problem and return the woman to her home. Yeah, that sounds like a dumb story there, okay? So you have a lady who's living in a home with waste in the basement. So the first question comes up is, why in the world was there waste in the basement like this? Okay, was this a slumlord we're dealing with? Was this a temporary problem? Was this a fixable issue? What was going on? Okay, there's not enough context to the story to know, hey, is the landlord actually to blame? And the second thing is, the city can come in and try to make repairs on a lot of these places, but remember that the reason tenants are in a lot of these properties, this is the lowest common denominator tenant. They are the lowest income. This is all they can really afford, and they are willing to accept bad situations at times. Okay, I've seen it before. I don't do business like that, but I do know that there are a few landlords who do business like that, where they make the minimal amount of repairs and maintenance possible to keep a tenant in there, okay, and they fix things slowly and etc. But that is the tenant base that they work with, and that's how they stay in business. And they seem to enjoy doing it, but I know that's not for me. But I don't think that this law is going to really go after those bad landlords like that. I think that instead it's going to really hurt the good landlords.